If you're a music maker who wants to make your first $1,000 a month from music, then do that consistently, month over month, I have a question for you. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to so easily monetize their music career? They have all the syncs, all the streams, all the royalty streams. They're making good money from their music, while at the same time, other people are struggling. Well, my name's Christian Hale, and I remember being at the beginning of my music career asking myself the same exact question. I just dropped out of college with no money and nothing to my name except for dreams and aspirations of a successful full-time music career. My family thought I was absolutely insane, and I didn't even know anyone else around me who was pursuing a full-time music career. But fast forward several years now, I moved to Nashville and I built up a successful music career as a full-time music producer and songwriter, making multiple six figures per year. In this video, I'm going to show you what I wish I knew at the beginning of my career and everything you need to know to make your first $1,000 a month from music, then do that consistently month over month. So without any further ado, let's get into this video and I'll show you how it's done. All right, as we begin to have this conversation, I am going to presume one thing. I'm going to presume that you do have a baseline level of skill and are able to provide a baseline level of value to whoever you're trying to help in order to make the money you desire to make from music. You know, on this channel, I'm here to help you do two things. I'm here to help you elevate the quality of your music and help you make more money from your music. This video is obviously dedicated to the latter. I have tons of other videos on this channel that are dedicated to the former, teaching you how to actually make your music better. So if that's your bottleneck, some of this, just to shoot you straight, probably won't apply to you. But if you have a baseline level of skill, baseline level of talent, even if it's maybe like not incredible, not world-class, just a baseline level of skill and value that you can provide to someone else, then this will apply to you. Next, I want to start breaking down and redefining the math of $1,000 a month to just help you wrap your head around this number. You know, for some of you watching, $1,000 a month might not seem like anything at all, or for others of you watching, making $1,000 a month, especially just from music, like literally sounds life-changing. But consider this, $1,000 a month is nothing more than, on average, about $231 per week or $33 per day. Now, I don't know about you, but $33 a day is a lot easier for me to wrap my head around in some cases than $1,000 a month. So I think that's a tactic right there. Like, if I ask you, if you're just starting out, could you go make $1,000 a day from music? It might seem like, for some of you, oh my gosh, that's so overwhelming. How am I ever going to do it? But if I said, could you find out a way to make $33 a day from music? I think that if you start thinking about that, it starts to make that $1,000 a month more attainable. Like, all I have to do is make $33 a day. And over the course of this video, I'm about to give you a ton of ways of how you can actually go about doing that. But $33 a day, that's all you have to do to make your first $1,000 a month from music. So what are the things you're going to do to actually move you towards your $1,000 a month music goal? Well, in having this conversation, we're going to use what I've called the Music Maker's Financial Freedom Framework. All right. And this is essentially how I structure my business, what I've developed over the course of years to make that multiple six figures per year. And as you're going to see over the course of this video, as I unpack this framework, not every dollar is created equal. And as we go through this framework too, I actually have a free PDF that goes along with this video. You can get that on my website, christianhale.co, or grab that down in the description below. But here's the short of the financial freedom framework. Essentially, there are three buckets of money. We got our three buckets here, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to unpack each one, and I'm going to show you which buckets I think are the best and what you need to focus on, what the best thing I should say for you to focus on is to make that $1,000 a month. So bucket number 1 is short term. Some examples of short-term money in the music industry would include anything essentially that is you trading your time for money. And some of the things that you can trade your time for money for are sexier than others, but a whole bunch of examples of short-term money, what I would call short-term money in this framework, include playing gigs, if you're an artist. Or if you're not an artist, I guess you can play gigs too. Along with playing gigs, you know, while you're at that gig, you can sell merch. You can sell tickets to the gig. You could teach lessons. You know, maybe you are a pretty good guitar player or drummer or producer, like whatever you are. You could teach lessons. And, you know, if you go back here to the $33 a day or $231 per week, if you taught 5 lessons at $40, $50 a pop, Like, you're there. It's not my favorite way necessarily to make money, as you're going to see as we unpack the framework, but you know, in the short-term bucket, you could do these things. You could sell beats. It's an example of what I would call short-term money in this framework. Or you could get into like personally what I do when I do work in the short-term bucket of the framework, which I'll call, just for the purpose of this, work for hire. Okay. And some examples of work for hire would be if you're a musician, a studio musician, or a live musician, playing your instrument for money, whether it be in the studio or live. This is basically somebody saying, "Hey, I think you're good at your instrument. I want to write you a check to play on my song or play my gig with me." You can mix for hire. I do some of this. When I am just a producer, hire mixers, but hey, go mix my song, make it sound good. You can produce songs for clients. Or if you're starting out in more of like a mentee role, if you're learning from another producer, you can do, production or programming work, keys, drums, some of that, assisting another producer for hire for another producer. All right, got it. So those are some things that I would call short-term revenue streams. Just kind of recapping those: playing gigs, selling merch, selling tickets, teaching lessons, selling your beats, doing work for hire, playing your instrument in a studio or live, mixing for hire, mastering for hire, producing for clients, producing for another producer, all those kinds of things. And if you go back to the math over here, to do $1,000 a month, can you realistically make $33 a day teaching music lessons? I think yes, and I would submit to you, you could do that pretty easily. Could you make $33 a day, producing records for clients? Absolutely. I know people that do nothing but produce for, artists that you're never going to hear of, that have like 3 streams on Spotify, who make multiple 6 figures per year. Again, we're presuming that your skill set is good enough to actually provide value to someone else that is worth them writing you a check. But you can make good money. And if you just reverse engineer the math, $1,000 a month, 231 a week, 33 a day, and do these things over here, you can get there. It might not happen overnight, or it might happen really quickly. But the short-term money is my least favorite way to go about making money from music, because this bucket is always dependent. So I'm going to write always dependent on trading your time, a limited resource, and I would say your most valuable resource, always dependent on trading time for money. So whether you're producing for a no-name artist, or if I'm producing for Justin Bieber, if I'm getting a $50,000 check or whatever it is at that level for Bieber, or if I'm getting a $20 check to produce for some no-name, at the end of the day, if it is my job and I am hired to go produce the record, I have to go trade my time for that paycheck. And personally, that's not what I'm most interested in, because the problem with always trading your time for money, whether you're dealing with $1,000 a month, the $33 a day, or $10,000 a month, or $100,000 a month, or $1 million a month, no matter what it is, if you build up a lifestyle that is all dependent on doing these things, I think there's a lot worse jobs than producing or programming or mixing or whatever. But if your lifestyle is always dependent on trading your time for money, then in order to preserve your lifestyle, you're going to always have to continue trading your time for more money. So that's where the financial freedom part, you don't really achieve financial freedom. You can achieve the financial part, but not the freedom part of this framework. So when you start thinking about, how am I going to make my first $1,000 a month from music, or how am I going to make $1,000 a month from music month over month, what I want you really to start thinking about, and where I want you to put your focus and attention, and where I put 98% of my focus and attention right now, are in buckets 2 and 3. So let's start unpacking those. So bucket 2 is what I call medium term money. And we like medium term money because it becomes, spoiler alert, long term money if we play our cards right. And I'm going to show you how you can do that. And, when you're thinking long-term money, maybe you're watching this video and you're like, dude, I have no money to my name. Like, I just have to pay my bills, whatever. That might be fine. I'm not telling you to not go do the things necessary to pay your bills, but start thinking at these higher levels. And then even if you do have to go trade your time for money to pay your bills and keep the lights on and all that, start creating time in your day to do the things in these buckets that I'm about to lay out for you. And over the course of time, you're going to be so grateful and in such a good position to where you don't have to go trade your time for money, even if it is in cool things like making music. But when we start having this medium term money conversation, this is where we start to get into revenue or royalty streams, okay? And in the music industry, there's a whole bunch of revenue and royalty streams. You know, I have a couple videos that I'll link down in the description below where I unpack some of those even further. But, you know, a few off the top of my head include PROs, so that's songwriter royalties with ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. Again, check out the video in the description below to go way deeper on that. There's streaming royalties. There are sync royalties when somebody actually synchronizes your song to picture, you know, for TV, film, ads, commercials, all that stuff. These are revenue royalty streams. There's YouTube content ID for music. There are mechanical royalties, okay? And the list goes on and on and on. You know, there's Sound Exchange. You can go Google and deep dive any one of these things. I'm only kind of just spitballing rapid fire in these to show you that there are a lot of different revenue streams right here in the medium term revenue bucket. And here's the deal about this is if you can go build this bucket up right here, you know, it's going to be a slow burn more than likely over the course of time. But if you can go build these royalties up right here, eventually, if you don't have what they call lifestyle creep, you can build this up enough to where it completely pays for your lifestyle off of your passive income, your revenue, your royalties, your sync, your PROs, your streaming, all of that. And to be totally transparent with you, that's where I am right now. I have got to the point over the course of years, consistency over time, focusing on this bucket right here, sometimes saying no to a short-term paycheck in this bucket over here, and instead saying, you know what, I'm going to go bet on myself and go build my revenue streams, my streaming, sync, PROs, you know, songwriting, go deny money in the short term to pay myself a little bit over the long term to slowly build up my revenue stream to where now this, I make more from this than all my bills every single month. So guess what that allows me the opportunity to do? Say yes or no to whatever the heck I want, take off time if I want, hang out with my wife and kid if I want, make these YouTube videos helping you guys if I want, which I love doing. And if that's cool, give this video a like, subscribe, comment, all of the things you already know what to do. And I know I'm getting ahead here. This is about how you can make $1,000 a month. I'm trying to talk like this to hopefully inspire confidence in you and show you that this is possible. Like, I didn't really know that this was possible when I was starting out 10 years ago. Like I said, I was a college dropout who my parents thought I was crazy. And I thought and kind of hoped that a music career is possible, but I didn't really know. And I'm here to tell you it's possible. It just requires some understanding in your mind that it is possible, and then some strategy of where should you put your focus. And here's the strategy. Put your focus in this bucket. So, you know, one of the best things I think you could do, and I'm here to tell you, you can definitely make these numbers by focusing on this strategy, is what I would do. And one of the things that I have done to build up this medium term bucket, whether you're a producer, and you should probably team up with people if you can't do all this yourself, but producer, artist, whatever, I would start an artist project. All right. And we could get into a whole bunch of reasons why, but in short, I think it's the best time in the history of the world to be an independent artist. And that doesn't mean you have to go play gigs. I don't play gigs. I don't really leave my house or studio unless it's to go do something fun, not to go play gigs. For me, that's not fun. I like being at home. But go start an artist project. And in starting that artist project, you can build up PRO, songwriting royalties. You can build up and fully own and control without a label, streaming royalties. You can go build up and create a brand that can hopefully over the course of time start getting syncs. I did this with my artist project Outskirts. I have another video link down in the description below that show you some of how me and my collaborator in that project did that. We started 4 or 5 years ago. We now have hundreds of thousands of Spotify monthly listeners just incrementally. We didn't have necessarily one huge song that blew up. We had one song do pretty well on socials, but that has been very much an incremental, strategic, calculated over time. We make songs, we put a brand on it, we package it up in a nice little bow, called it Outskirts, put it out there, started growing a listenership. Again, a bunch of strategic ways that you can go about doing some of that. And now, just from that one project, Outskirts, just from streaming alone, I make way more than $1,000 a month from that one thing. That's not getting into the songwriting money from it, or the sync, or the content ID, or the Sound Exchange, or the mechanicals, none of that. Just from streaming, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Pandora, whatever alone, I make, $2,000, $3,000 a month just from my share of that one project. So if I were starting over today in this economy, if this is me 10, 12 years ago when I was just starting out, I would team up with somebody else and go start an artist project and put a bunch of, again, presuming high quality, good songs, good productions, good mixes, all that stuff, but be consistent in playing the game as an independent artist, building up those revenue streams, and then not having lifestyle creep, but building this up enough to where you can fully live off this medium term money. You know, when I was 21 years old, I think my rent was like $200 a month. And I know times have changed. I was in Lincoln, Nebraska, so not some crazy city. But like, you know, if my rent was $200 a month and I could have been making $250 a month from this bucket right here, and then maybe also still said yes to some things over here in the short term bucket, like I'd be doing pretty good. And I do sometimes say yes to this day, things in the short term bucket. But the beautiful thing about it is I don't say yes to those things because I have to. I say yes to things that excite me, productions I want to take on, mixes I want to take on, songs I want to write with and for other artists. It's not because I have to, it's because I choose to and get to. And sure, I get paid from that too. That's all cool. But what a better way to do things in the short term bucket when you've built up this bucket right here, you know, over the course of time. Another thing you can do as a producer, I'll say this, is if, you know, you're just starting out, start figuring out ways. We could deep dive on this. You could reach out to me for one-on-one coaching to kind of walk you through some of the strategic ways you can do this. But on songs you produce and things you do upfront for hire, start figuring out how to get back in royalties. Okay. And the beautiful thing about this is, you know, I've had some songs that are successful, but I've built this up, you know, 6 figures, this medium term bucket at age 30 now, you know, incrementally over the course of times. There's not some giant earth shattering hit in there. This is a bunch of consistency over time. And, you know, at one point in time, however many years ago, this medium term bucket for me was $0 a month. Then it was 100. Then it was 200. Then it was 300. So I'm just here to tell you, if you want to make $1,000 a month, $231 a week, $33 a day, the best way is to focus on this medium term bucket over the short term bucket. Or if you are going to play in the short term bucket, at least have your eye on the prize of this medium term bucket. Now, you might be looking at me saying, Christian, what's the deal with this long term bucket? The reason I've talked so much about this medium term bucket is really the medium term bucket is what becomes the long term bucket. And the long-term bucket doesn't really exist without the medium-term bucket. And we're not going to talk too much about this right now, but the long-term bucket, that the medium-term bucket turns into is really 2 things. Number 1, it's taking this money, and we'll say this money too. But remember, we want to primarily build our lifestyle off the medium-term bucket. But make the medium-term money and put this into, this kind of advanced down the road. If you're just starting out, don't worry about it, but let it rattle around in the back of your mind and start doing this as soon as you can. But invest this money in income producing assets such as stocks, crypto, real estate, whatever. You know, I'm not a financial guy. There's a bajillion financial people that could teach you way more about this than I'm going to on this video. But what most people do is they go work for money, they take the paycheck, they spend it, then they go back to their job and then go work for another paycheck, then they spend that. What you want to start doing is taking this money right here and investing it into income producing assets that this pays you, then you kick that money over there, and then this that you build up over the course of time starts paying you, and it's just this great perpetual loop of financial freedom. That's what we're going for, freedom. The power to say yes or no to a crap client project, or the power to only spend your days working on what you want to work on. I mean, to be transparent, at this point in time, I make way more from music than I make from YouTube in this education business thing that I'm doing here. But I love doing this. And guess what? I have the freedom to sit here on a Tuesday and make this video and hopefully inspire you guys, give you ideas of ways you can start making more money from your music. And I love doing this, so I get to do it because this stuff, this little army of medium-term revenue I built up is out there working for me. And again, I'm not some special guy. My parents thought I was crazy. I didn't know anyone in my town in Nebraska where I grew up to like even go out and do this, but it's just, I'm here to tell you it's possible. That's why I get so excited about this. It's possible. And you can do it with some strategy and again, consistency over time. That's the key to this. But take this money and put it into income producing assets. That's way number 1. The other way that this becomes long-term money is in catalog sales. And I have another video linked down below where I break down catalog sales, but essentially a beautiful, beautiful thing thing about the music industry is that if you have revenue streams over here making money every month, quarter, year, however it's paid out, that money can be sold for a multiple, and it's a little more complicated than just put a multiple on it. But, let's say you have a revenue stream doing, $10,000 a year, and an investor, a company, or whoever buys catalogs, again, click on the video below to learn all about catalog sales. But let's say they're going to pay you a 6x multiple on that $10,000 a year. Cool, you just made $60,000 and it's taxed at long-term capital gains, but you're music people, you're probably already bored. I'm just here to tell you that this short-term money can really turn into long-term money, that then if you take that money and invest it into income-producing assets, you got freedom. So I know I threw a lot at you there. And you might be a kid watching this video who, again, like you're not even really sure how you're going to pay your rent in a few weeks when the month rolls around, or you're not even sure, like, how am I going to survive? I want you to just, first of all, change your mind, start thinking bigger. Not to quote the Bible, but to quote the Bible, transformation by the renewing of your mind. Mindset is huge. Like thinking bigger, not thinking limited, just knowing what's possible, knowing that financial freedom from music is a possibility. I know because I did it, and there was a point in time not all that long ago where I didn't think it was possible. But you have what it takes with skill, with strategy, with consistency over time to make $1,000 a month, $231 a week, $33 a day, and I believe way, 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 way more than that over the course of time from your music. Again, to review, short-term money, playing gigs, teaching lessons, selling merch, selling beats, producing for clients, mixing, mastering for clients. All that's cool. And when you're starting out, especially building your skill set, nothing wrong with putting your focus there. But sooner rather than later, we want to start getting over into the medium-term money, the revenue streams, the royalty streams, PROs, streaming, sync, content ID, mechanical, sound exchange. The list goes on and on and on. And I think one of the best ways to do that is start an artist project. You and a buddy, or you by yourself. Just start creating music that you fully own and control. Put it out to streaming. Figure out some streaming strategies. I have some videos on that. Some friends of mine have great videos on that. You can figure out ways to do this. I've done it. And start building back-end royalties. Use your own artist project, your own that you fully own and control, to start getting these things. Build that up over enough time. Fund your lifestyle on this right here. Turn this into long-term money because you put it into income-producing assets, and then eventually one day, if you want to sell your catalog, that's how you create financial freedom. These are the ways that you can create $1,000 a month, and again, way more from music. So again, if this video was helpful, give it a thumbs up. Drop me a comment down below. Let me know what the most helpful part of this video was. Subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell for more content just like this. Thanks as always for watching, and we'll see you back here on the channel real soon.